We're so excited that in this series we are getting to read and think about
Jane Austen.
Austen and the Bronte
sisters.
I think one of the best ways to really get inside a text and understand how it works is to imitate it.
Speaking for myself, it was when I was writing that I was most truly absorbed.
It's sort of complete immersion when you're doing historical interpretation.
I argue in my book that care is kind of the stem cell of good feeling in many 19th century novels, and that includes persuasion.
There was a moment in June 2020 when we didn't know when we were going to reopen. It felt like everything was very bleak, and actually having that support coming in from all over the world was incredibly moving. And I think it sort of just reinforced why we, without wanting to sound too ridiculous, but why we do what we do.
So inspiring. The wonderful thing, I thank everybody who's sharing, because I think it gives everybody else permission to take risks and just do anything, because you really can't do this wrong.
Nothing's better for me when I give a talk to see people start doing care readings in the comments. This is like what I'm living for. This is great.
I love this idea that, her books are her children. She refers to Pride and Prejudice as her own darling child.
We both truly found solace and happiness in our writing.
In just 7 simple steps, everyone can end up with an original yet authentic rave in Jane Austen's own style.
So they created their own extraordinary games of the imagination, which kind of really took a hold of them from an early age.
With trembling hands, I sent the manuscript of my recently completed Jane Eyre to Mr. Smith and Elder.
And I think that's what is really, there are so many differences, but one of those really lovely parallels between the sisters and Bramwell and Austen is this absolute determination from a really young age of, this is what I want.
Your passions are a part of you, and they give your books, Jane Eyre, The Professor, all of them indeed, their intensity, their strength.
I feel like all my slides from Jane Eyre show people dying or collapsing, but that's kind of the way it is.
Jane lost her father, who ran off to Gretna Green with a house name.
As one does.
Honestly, Laura, I think you might have my dream job.
Well, in general, I do not want people to be very agreeable, as that saves me the trouble of liking them a great deal.
From the writing of it, I had that phenomenon where I was laughing as I wrote.
Every religious figure in that book is kind of shown to be deeply flawed in some way.
Austen's clerical figures are as well.
Yeah, not Henry, not Henry Tilney. I want to say Hugh Laurie, but you know who I mean.
Susanetta has lost a potential contributor whose name is Austenuto, and he died of writer's block.
This was one of those things that just wrote itself. They just talked. It just took me a few days to get it down on paper.
I spent so much time just simply surrounded by her novels and letters, and very little else except for a cup of tea.
If you were a writer and you were being advised to correct your faults in the light of this other great writer, it wouldn't kind of predispose you to like their work.
In both novels, our heroine has a romantic rival, somebody that the man she loves has been involved with before, and in both cases, that rival, that other woman, suffers a catastrophic fall.
Actually, Bronte and Austen contribute a lot of the women's words that are in print.
Mr. Rochester, as a matter of fact, he reminds me a little of my own Mr. Darcy.
One of the things that Charlotte Bronte notoriously said about Jane Austen is that her novels were well-cultivated gardens.
She understood human nature so well and understood what a great story is.
It's like, let's lean into the incoherency of these speeches, and by doing that we can appreciate them and understand and ironically understand them better that way.
Yeah, but I would love to see people, thinking through in what conditions can cross-class relations be genuine care communities. Is it ever possible?
And I love that, as you said, Susan, that the mind gets involved and you can't help being creative even within this structure.
She has this brilliant mind. She expresses herself so beautifully. But so much of what she expresses is questioning if what she's doing is good enough.
Or Laura Rockland, one of our feature speakers in the series, has suggested that they might be referred to as airheads, which is great.
And I think that for me, one of the biggest discoveries was kind of realising what the Brontës were up against and realising how brave they were in their writing.